Oh God, McLaren!
He's gone.
He's been in the pit 40 seconds!
Whoa!
Front wing! Careful with the front wing! God! Matisse, it's happening, mate. I'm putting on my lucky new Ferrari hat. Oh no!
Oh, Sainz!
Leclerc! It's Leclerc!
Drama!
I'll take that out.
Leclerc.
Introducing FANZONE. My friend Elliot from Canada.
We are still
Say we
top of the league. Say we are top of the league. We are top of the league. Say we are top of the league.
Allows any fan, anywhere you are on the planet, to broadcast live into our shows at the push of a button via our website or app.
I'm tired of hearing about the Europa League like it's silverware. So is the League Cup. So is the Dubai Cup. So is the Community Shield.
Michael, come on, they're not the same level.
No, I mean it.
Cecile. My guy.
FANZONE on AFTV Plus. You can download it on iOS or the Play Store and have your say.
Hey everyone, welcome back to AFTV. Welcome to a live show. It's 5 o'clock. It's Thursday. It feels to me a little bit like the start of the weekend because Arsenal play tomorrow. It's the kind of eve of a Premier League game. And we're here to, it's been a while since we've done this, but actually talk a little bit about Arteta's press conference. He does like to leave us guessing with them. And some good quotes in this. But how are you, Turkish?
Yeah, I'm good. I don't know if there's good quotes in there.
I don't think they are good quotes,
but yeah,
if I'm honest.
It has been a while since we've looked at a presser and taken bits and bobs out to see how the next few weeks might pan out personnel wise.
I always love trying to second guess Arteta because he's made me look like a fucking, should I say it? Fucking idiot. Upon about.
Well, he's made a lot of us look like idiots.
Yeah, he has. And I'm not even talking the whole trust the process stuff. I'm talking like.
I am.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm talking. Trossard, Jesus, they're all unavailable. Everyone's out. Eddie as well. Bam. Starting the next game, against Fulham, things like that. And with Saliba, I really thought he was kind of, I don't know, keeping us guessing on his fitness, with a view to him returning quite soon. But it just feels like his return is getting more and more delayed with every day that passes.
Yeah, I mean, he often likes to play his cards close to his chest. I think that's the saying. And it's hard to really make of what will come from his press conferences. And I understand that a lot of managers do it, but with Saliba, I think we're coming to the conclusion that less has been said because very little has been known, rather than less being said because he's going to come out of nowhere and start the next fixture.
Does it remind you of the Tomiyasu injury last year? Let's not forget we were talking about Tomiyasu in actually a very similar way to, okay, maybe not a very similar way, but in the fact that Tomiyasu was so important last season, especially with that back four and the backups we had available, it felt like we needed Tomiyasu for the run-in and we kept waiting, trying to find out when he'd be back. It feels a little bit like that with Saliba. And actually, Arsenal have actually shown a kind of form for taking their time with injuries and ensuring that they bring them back at the right time. But is there such a thing as overcautious as well? I don't know.
There is such thing as overcautious. I think with Jesus, we was overcautious, but it played into our hands. I think it was the right thing to do. But with, however many games left of the season now, the right time is now. Obviously, you want them to be pretty much close to readiness to feature again. But we ain't really got time to waste this season now.
No, we don't. And I remember Arteta. Do you remember the Newcastle game at St James's, the one we lost 2-0, kind of ended our hope for Champions League? And before that game, Ben White and Gabriel both started. Gabriel came off the North London derby game before with what looked like an injury. Ben White, we know, had been unavailable for a while. And Arteta was asked in the press conference, are there players who are being sort of strapped up a little bit and bandaged up just to get them through this game? And he said something along the lines of, it's that time of the season, there are, I think he said, I'm paraphrasing, but along the lines of, we are perhaps taking risks we wouldn't at another point in the season. And I really wonder whether with Saliba's injury, that time may come, whether it is Newcastle further down the line, whether they see this Man City game as quite literally a final for the title. I don't know. So let's explain in more detail why we're having this conversation, because he did his press conference, Arteta, and he was asked about team news, quite vaguely, and he said, "There's no big news. The picture hasn't changed from last week. Regarding William, we still have to wait a little bit more. He's not progressing as quickly as we hoped, and it is a bit delicate, so we want to be certain that when we push him, he's ready to absorb the load and the risk that he will take, and that's not possible at the moment." That's why, that's why it's a question mark in the title, Saliba setback. We're not claiming it, we're asking it. That sounds like a setback to me. That sounds like we really thought you would have progressed a bit better. Well, he's quite literally said it. He's not progressing as quickly as we hoped.
Yeah, and I think the nature of the injury being a back problem, muscular, it's really hard to predict the outcome until he beds himself back into, some work in the gym, some work on the pitch. And this week, it was only a couple of days ago, me and Cecil did a live, and it was that El Nene post. You could see Saliba on the bike, and it just felt like he's, either nearing or close to a return. But obviously in those moments, in those situations, that's when you truly find out if he's over that injury, if it's time to look forward now. And over the last couple of days, I think Arteta and the medical team have probably come to the conclusion that he's not quite ready, and it's hard to really tell when he will be ready.
Yeah, look, you could throw it the other way and say it's more mind games. It's Arteta basically trying to give the impression that it's really not looking good for him. That's what I thought he was doing pre-Liverpool. And and again, there's no information. None of this is confirmed. I still have a bit of a feeling that Saliba had trained a little bit, had done some ball work, had been incorporated into some first team training, and only the outcome and the conclusion was he's not ready for it.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. It's a shame because, like I said a couple of days ago, I thought, some minutes against Southampton and he'll be ready for the City game. Now, I know you're going to delve deeper into the quotes and there's a couple more in there. It doesn't seem likely at all that he's going to feature against City, let alone Southampton.
Well, and here's the next quote. On whether Saliba will play again this season, Arteta said, "I don't know. It's a bit early to know. Probably next week we'll have more certainty. There is some evolution. He's doing more activity, but is not there yet to start to throw him into the pitch at the level the sessions demand to compete in this league." I think what he's basically saying is, yeah, sure, you give him a football, he can run around a pitch and kick it and all that, but we're talking winning headers, we're talking last-ditch tackles, we're talking sprints, recoveries, one-on-one defending.
We're talking Erling Haaland.
Only the small matter of 6'4", 45, currently goal a season striker Erling Haaland. Yeah, it's like a different task.
Yeah, and I think that quote kind of tells us that forget about Saliba for City. If the next checkpoint is next week in terms of finding out where he is and how far away he is, next week is the big one, Manchester City at the Etihad. So
what does Saliba's injury mean for the title race, though? Because I know exactly I think I know what it means for the Man City game, which is probably a real test for Rob Holding and Gabriel, because I think not having one affects the other, and I think partnerships are important. I think it means a real strain on the centre backs in that situation. But what do you make of the title? Do you feel like, okay, sorry, let me rephrase. I'm phrasing this terribly. What was a bigger blow, the Saliba injury or the 2 points dropped against West Ham?
That's a good question, but I'd probably lean more towards the 2 points dropped against West Ham.
Yeah, I think so too. And the reason I say that is because I actually think for 90% of what's left of this season, Rob Holding and Gabriel is perfectly adequate.
We can make do, yeah.
Right, whereas I think the points are really crucial. When I envisage us at the end of the season either winning or losing this league, I don't see there being 5-6 points in it either way. I really see it being a couple points here and there. So then I follow on with then, what do you think the Saliba injury could mean for the rest of the season if he's not to feature and it is Holding and Gabriel to the end?
I'm still confident we can get 3 points in the majority of games with Rob Holding there. But the fact we've dropped points against Liverpool, the fact we dropped points against West Ham makes that Etihad, I forgot who said it, but a Premier League final. It feels like a Premier League final. And I just fear that we lose the title. That's just the general feeling I get. It won't mathematically be over. There'll still be a chance there, and I'm sure City will drop points at some point in the last, however many games they got left. But it just feels like it all comes down to that one. So even with Saliba's injury, I'm not looking too far forward. My eyes have, ever since the Anfield game, my eyes have been firmly set on the Etihad fixture. And after Etihad, win, lose or draw, it'll be firmly set on the Newcastle fixture, and keeping an eye out on the Manchester City games too. So I'm not thinking too far forward, but you know, before West Ham, I thought Holding will be sufficient enough to carry us, you know, through the majority of games. After West Ham, it doesn't change my mind, because as much as Rob Holding being there does affect the way we play at the back, the speed and the transition, the breaking of the lines, I don't think that's the reason we lost. I mean, not lost, it feels like a loss. That's the reason we dropped points against West Ham. It's bigger than that. Similar to the Liverpool game as well. So as much as, yes, Saliba is a different level of quality and we all want him there, I don't think Holding's introduction to the first team over the last few games has been the reason why we've dropped points. It's been a bigger thing.
Okay, I'll start on the negatives, then on the positives on this. I think the negatives are that William Saliba is so crucial. Arteta's built a team that's so finely tuned that you see, even when our backup left back comes in, it doesn't feel quite as natural, even though Tierney was so brilliant last season. When our backup right back comes in, when Holding steps in for Saliba, whatever changes you make, even Jorginho for Partey, it does feel like almost the other options in the squad are very different. Jorginho is far less dynamic than Partey, maybe a slightly more accurate passer of the ball, maybe, some might argue not. Tomiyasu feels like much more of a defensive option, whereas Ben White's evolved into this real kind of marauding right back, which we never saw coming. Tierney's your old school left back. Zinchenko is an inverted modern style fullback. So I think with Holding coming in for Saliba, it does make a massive difference to the way we play. I can't shake this idea that Ben White wasn't overlapping when we needed a goal against West Ham for 40 minutes of that game, purely because he doesn't want to leave that and vacate that space quite as much. I can't help but feel that. I also think passing through the line, Saliba did have a tendency sometimes to just think, yeah, cool, I'll carry it around two players. Or when he thought he was pressed, he'd go, yeah, no, it's fine, I'll dribble around you, and then completely cause havoc in your opposition press, because suddenly it's like, oh, well, am I pressing onto him or am I following my run or whatever? And it just, these little things, this unpredictability that William Saliba had in a really good way, I think did us so much good. I don't think Rob Holding has that. But if I'm to turn it into opportunity, I'd say we were leaking goals even with William Saliba in the team. We're still scoring goals now. I think if Arsenal can find a way to tighten up and play a little bit more to Rob Holding's strengths, they might not score 3, 4, 5 goals a game. But you know what? Like, a lot of titles I've seen won by clubs just getting over the line with 1-0s, 2-0s, 2-1s, just scoring one more than your opponent, being tight, being professional. And I don't... Yes, it's a real shame we're not going to have Rob Holding going to the Etihad. Sorry, we're not going to have William Saliba going to the Etihad. I agree with that. But I'm not sure for the rest of the games that I'm like looking at that area of the pitch and going, yeah, well, you know, the title's done. Even if we lose at the Etihad, I still maintain hope that the Everton away game, wedged in between the two Real Madrid ties, might be a slip. I still maintain hope that Brighton away before Brentford away in the final 2 games of the season, that's a tricky end. I still maintain hope they might lose there, so, or draw. So I don't know. I don't think the title is decided by Saliba's injury, but I think the Man City game feels a lot further away from us in terms of getting what we want.
Yeah, it shouldn't be decided by Saliba's injury. I mean, listen, Saliba's hit the ground running this season from the get-go. He's a young star, you know. In his first year at Arsenal, you can see what he's brought, what he's going to bring for the future, and hopefully he signs a contract, and that's, you know, that's more secure. But when Jesus got injured, I felt like that could derail our title hopes. It didn't. Partey's missed a few games here and there. I thought, shit, this could cause a bit of a problem. It didn't.
Yeah, true.
With Saliba, it's also a position where I think the understudy is not of the quality and level we need, and it's an area that I'd hope to improve on. But that's similar to Partey and his understudy and Jesus and his understudy. We've managed to maneuver ourselves round these issues we've had at different points of the season, but now we have no time. We have to get past this. And like I said, it's been, what, 3 games Holding started in a row, back to back? 4. I just need him to do a job. Now, I look back at that FA Cup tie against City, and I know a lot of fans tend to say he done a good job against Haaland. I disagree.
Okay.
I think he struggled. I do think he he wanted to be a bit over physical with Haaland because of obviously Haaland's attributes and strengths, and I understand that way of going about it. But an early yellow card and a half-time substitution, in my opinion, it wasn't the best of performances. So he's already played against Haaland. He's already made that mistake against Haaland, because the yellow, I think he was near the halfway line, it was needless. He just goes straight through him. In the end, it cost him a half-time sub. I'm hoping he's learned enough from that 45 minutes to not lose control in that manner again. Because as much as I don't think he had a great 45 against Haaland, it was 0-0 in the first half. So we managed to get through it with holding that centre back up against Haaland, and we didn't concede many chances off the top of my head in that first half.
No, I thought we were the better team in the first half, actually. And I thought it was a very good audition for what Arteta wanted to do in that game. Funnily enough, Rob Holding and Kieran Tierney started that game, and I thought, well, we'll come back with William Saliba and Zinchenko in April, but it might well be them as well, because on Zinchenko's fitness, Arteta said we'll see about that one as well. It's not certain. It's a muscular injury and it needs some time to heal, and we're not there yet. So it does feel like when it rains it pours for us. And I mean, you know, we manoeuvred the Jesus thing. I mean, let me put it this way, right? Forget that you're fighting, you know, Manchester City and everything that they've done and achieved the last few years and the standards that they've set. You're also doing it, you know, with Jesus missing 3 months of the season, then Saliba missing the run-in, now Zinchenko potentially missing some big games in the run-in, and then you've got Man City, you know, they've not had a single spell without Erling Haaland. You know, okay, Diaz was injured at the start of the year. Oh no, Akanji had to come in, but it's not the key part of the season. I don't know, like, I feel like we haven't been unfortunate compared to other teams. Other teams have had a lot more injuries, but we've just had really key players at really key moments. Partey missing the Man City game, but actually he's largely been available all season. So that's frustrating, but I don't know, man. When you start to pull that defence apart, you do start to worry, because now that's 2 of the back 4 missing.
Well, what other options do we have? Because I've seen someone put in a comment saying play Ben White centre back and roll Walters at right back, and that's outrageous to me, considering the size of this game and the little experience Walters has.
Well, let me have a little look.
Do you have any suggestions of what we can do different? Someone said go 3 at the back, but then who would be the right wing back would be my question.
Well, there's actually, Robbie and I actually did a video on this. It's coming out on the channel later, I think tonight, I believe, where we explored some of the options people put forward. And I want to really stress this. I didn't think people put forward bad options. I understand why people are saying, look, I think we need to find a way to get White to centre back, to try and go for someone who's a little bit more like for like in the way he plays at the back. Only I think that the solutions aren't good enough. So,
or not tested enough to know.
Okay, let me put it this way, right? If Maitland-Niles and actually that's Cedric was here at the start of the season. Cedric hadn't gone on loan on deadline day in January and he'd stayed. I would prefer Cedric right back and White centre back with Gabriel. I would prefer that. So I'm not against the idea of moving things around to get more of a balance that we're used to. But when the solution is Raw Walters, who by the way might be good enough. Some people have watched him in the academy and this, and they might say, yeah, I've seen players and I know when they've hit that level where they might be ready for the first team, and I think he's there. That's fair enough. If that's your opinion, that's so fine. I can't comment on that, so I'm going to naturally say that I probably think he's not ready, considering Arteta didn't really give him Europa League minutes or anything like that. The other options are Partey goes to right back, Jorginho starts in midfield. The other option is I think a back 3 where Saka's a wing back and you play Holding.
Someone said that here.
Yeah, Holding, White, Gabriel. Yeah. Oh yeah, someone did say it. You're right. I mean, maybe that. To be honest, I think Arteta sometimes alternates to that formation in game anyway. Away at Fulham when we won 3-0, Saka and Trossard were defending unbelievably deep. So
that would probably be the best one of the lot.
Probably, because you feel like we can kind of naturally transition into whatever formation, you know, we play anyway. 4-3-3. Saka holding the width.
And even with Tierney, I mean, even with Zinchenko then potentially out, it's still a back 3 of Holding, Gabriel and Ben White.
Yeah, and then maybe Tierney and Saka as the wing backs.
Yeah, but then if Zinchenko's fit, then I'd probably go with Ben White, Gabriel, Tierney as the back 3, and then Zinchenko as the wing back.
Oh, does it not feel like slightly scary, like changing everything that the good work that's got us to here, changing it for one game?
This is the one game is Manchester City.
I know. You're right.
And you know they have set the standards over the years. So if you're going to change it up for any game in the Premier League, it's going to be City away from home, and then that's where we're at the moment. It can get the nerves up, especially if you see a lineup that and a formation that you're not familiar with an hour before kickoff. But at the same time, you go in with the usual and don't see it home. The question marks are going to be about whether you should have changed it out for City away. I
just think the players have to embrace this now, as whoever's played, right? So if he does mix it up, Arteta, or if he does stick with Holding, which is what I personally believe he'll do, you know, I think they should to be inspired. Per Mertesacker didn't kick a single ball in the 16-17 season. Comes into the FA Cup final and plays like a man possessed. That was comfortably his best game in an Arsenal
100%.
shirt. Like, he was on another. And let me level with everyone. I know a lot of Arsenal fans actually really have a soft spot for Mertesacker in their hearts. I do as a servant to the club. As a player, I'll be honest, I never rated him really. I thought he was okay at best. You know, but that game, oh my word, he just came through with Rob Holding, who was 19, I think, at the time, and Nacho Monreal, or maybe 20, and then Nacho Monreal, and that was your back three. We beat the champions. We beat 90-point Chelsea with Diego Costa, Hazard, and Pedro. I mean, miracles happen.
Yeah, the thing about Mertesacker though is he tended to rely on his mental attributes more than his physical attributes. So as much as physically there would have been question marks over him stepping in without having played a game, the mental side of things, reading of the game, Mertesacker was up there.
Yeah, he was a good reader of the game. It kind of I'm laughing when I say this because I actually mean it in the best way possible. It's testament to how well he reads the game that he wasn't like embarrassed more in terms of like the quick pace of like, you know, he was doing it in an era of Suarez, Aguero, like strikers like that, really kind of nippy, like, you know, go one way then cut the other way, and you know, strikers who just caused you havoc. And he held his own, you know, for a good 4 or 5 years as a starter in the Premier League, and he was part of Arsenal teams that got closer than most to actually being competitive. I mean, he won trophies. You know, he scored in one final, man of the match performance in another, scored at Wembley in the semi-final against Wigan to actually take it to penalties and then us winning. So
and that's where I have doubts with Holding, the mental side of the game. Obviously physical as well, because I don't think he's of the standard physically, but his reading of the game isn't close to what Mertesacker was. But
you know what I do think Rob Holding's actually become really good at, and I just know that I've jinxed it now. He's a very good penalty box defender. He really does get his head on things, and like in close spaces he defends his box well. Like when things come in, he is there to clear. And I mean, I'm not saying Saliba doesn't have that. I mean, we haven't seen Arsenal actually have to do a lot of that kind of defending with William Saliba this season because we've often been on the front foot and everything. But that is one thing that maybe suits a Rob Holding at the Etihad, that whatever the situation, if we're in the lead or even holding on to a draw, we might be in a position in which it's backs against the wall stuff, and it's Rob Holding, just do your thing here. You and Gabriel just put in a monster class away from home.
Yeah, ideally that's what we need. But when you look at City's most informed attacking players, it'd be Haaland and Grealish, and they just happen to be, well, Haaland's obviously central, but I'm sure he'll try play off Holding a lot more than Gabriel, and Grealish is on Holding side of the defence. So I have my worries that, you know, between them they're going to find quite a bit of success against Holding. So then it depends on how Ben White plays in that game. Is he a lot more reserved? Does he sit back and help out instead of does he help out Holding more than he helps out Saka? What do we go into the game for? Are we going there for 3 points, or does Arteta think a point is enough to take out of there and still think we can get over the line? That's also an interesting way to look at it, because
so similar to Tottenham last year, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where it felt like a win, obviously a win mathematically confirmed things at Tottenham. A win at Man City, it does feel like it makes it incredibly difficult for City to pull it back. But a draw's like good enough. Like a draw for me is looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah, because listen, let's say we do the job against Southampton. We should do the job against Southampton. So we go 7 points clear. A draw at the Etihad was 7 points clear. Yes, they'll have 2 games in hand, but points on the board is better than games in hand. So imagine getting out of the Etihad, still being 7 points clear, and no longer having to play Manchester City in the upcoming games. It'd be hard to see past us not winning the league then. Obviously, it's not mathematically sorted and it's not over.
No, well, one slip up and then, No, you're right. I mean, Jack says here in the comments, he says, second is the greatest bottle job in history. And I kind of wanted to touch on this because you asked on Forever Arsenal about the whole bottling thing. And I'm not going to ask about whether it's a bottle, but I'm going to ask about whether kind of it's a failure, because Arteta was asked about, the aspirations and what second means. And he basically said, we don't, basically something along, again, I'm paraphrasing, but a club the size of Arsenal's, we don't make a judgment on the season till after the last game. And I think what he basically meant was, I'm not sitting here going, yay, kind of we've overachieved, this is great, and a win against Southampton confirms top 4, which is what I think we all were hoping for, at the start of the season. But I think he's in a position where he's saying, I'm not going to just say, yeah, cool, with 5 games to go, everything's been achieved. You've got to wait till the very end and see where you're left.
Yeah, the term bottling has been rinsed now.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course it has.
For me, bottling came hand in hand with Tottenham, and the reason for that is because look at their history, look at what they've won or what they haven't won over the years. That word bottling becoming synonymous with Tottenham happened over time. Now it's just used in a 90-minute game. You bottled that. It's used at the end of the season when you're points-wise you're having a great season, but Manchester City are juggernaut or on your heels. You might slip up to them and you City might win the league. To be honest, I do think they're favourites. But to call that a bottle and also call a team that historically don't win anything a bottle, I think another word needs to be used because it's not comparable for me.
Well, some Tottenham fans made a really good point, which is that people talk about Tottenham bottling the title race with Leicester, for example. And they're right to say that wasn't Tottenham bottling it, because, in my opinion, because they were never leading it. Leicester were always ahead, they were always chasing. So I agree with that. What I do think is a bottle on the Tottenham side of things is they had a team that over 2 consecutive seasons registered something like the most goals scored, the most points accumulated over 2 years. Then that group made it to the Champions League final. They had one of their best managers in their history, I believe, Harry Kane, who look what he's gone and achieved, some really fantastic players, and they've got nothing to show for it. That for me is that you made 2 FA Cup semi-finals, you chased 2 teams in the title race, you got to a Champions League final. I think that group under Mourinho then got to a Carabao Cup final and then sacked the manager who they hired to win the trophy the day before the final. That for me is, as a club, bottling that opportunity, that window of opportunity. But I agree that they didn't bottle the season against Leicester. They didn't bottle it against Chelsea. Leicester were better that season, Chelsea were better that season. But I think to use it against us and say, well, Arsenal have bottled it if they don't win it this year. Jack saying at one point we had a 13-point lead. I don't remember ever having a 13-point lead. I don't think that's true.
No, that's not true.
Tell us where. I mean, I don't know. I might be. Look, also,
no, we never had a 13-point lead.
If we did, City, hadn't played 2 games. Like, you know what I mean? Like at one point, the only point I remember level on games after we beat Tottenham in the North London derby, we went 8 points clear. That is the only time. But we haven't hit 19th game yet.
Yeah.
Man United the week after was our 19th game halfway through.
Yep.
So I think people just need to relax a little bit with this whole, you're bottling it, throwing it away. Arsenal, I don't remember people saying about Liverpool. I don't remember anyone saying that Liverpool had bottled these title races with Man City. And then everyone says, the 1 year that City aren't as good, Arsenal taking advantage. Well, Liverpool won it, and I think City got to 83 points or something that season.
Yeah.
They're used to getting to 93, 94. So, I don't know. I think it's the usual kind of trying to spin a narrative on a young Arsenal team that isn't true.
Yeah, plus, listen, Liverpool are a far bigger team than Arsenal, but in terms of online presence over the years, since YouTube football content creating has been a thing, Arsenal have been down in the dumps. We've been the one that opposition fans tended to laugh at the most. And, the whole banter club, banter FC, all of this stuff. I get it. So they're not used to seeing what they're seeing now. So, you know, opposition fans, they're going to use the word bottle. It's going to be used a hell of a lot if we don't win this league. And that's just part and parcel of what football, YouTube and the online presence has become. It's more, you know, seeking areas to rip the other team, to get onto the other fan base, to put the other team down and other fans down. The reality is, like I've said before, I do think not winning the league is a failure for us this season, because I think so far as we sit here today, we deserve it. But if Man City are top after 38 games, they deserve it, because whoever's top after 38 games deserves to win the league. But up until now, the football we've played, the improvements we've made, the development in many key areas, I think we do deserve the Premier League. But there's still games to go where that can all change. But opposition fans who haven't been pleased with what they're seeing at their clubs, whether it's Tottenham, whether it's Chelsea, whether it's United, not so much Liverpool, even though we had a Liverpool fan the other day in the chat, you know, trying to throw his 2 pence in there, had to shut that down quick. Online, it's a habit of, you bottled it, you've done this, no, you've done this. It's always very definitive. Opposition fans don't care that Arsenal fans would have seen progress even without getting over the line. They don't care. Because at the end of the day, trophies is what matters the most. Winning is what matters the most. And I'm going to reiterate, coming out of a season with nothing, you don't remember them as much as you would do having come out with something. So, for example, if we don't get over the line in the Premier League and Manchester City win the league, yes, we've made progress this season, but I'm not going to remember it as much as a season where we've won the league, or even a season where we won the FA Cup, because that is success.
I hear it.
This might be the season we look back on if we don't get over the line and say that was the start of something special. But aside from that, if we don't build on what we've done this season, whether it's getting over the line in the Premier League in the final 8 games, or whether that's going next season and winning it and competing in the Champions League and so on, this season will be forgotten quicker than I think a lot of people would like.
Okay, but I'll challenge that slightly, okay? Because if it's all, as Arteta has said before, part of the journey, if it's all part of the journey that ultimately gets us to where we want to be, then this is remembered. So look at Liverpool, right? No one goes, oh, they won the Premier League, and well, what's the Jurgen Klopp achieved? I won the Premier League in 2019, Champions League in 2019, then Premier League 2020, and left us. They actually always say, well, he got to the Champions League final in 2018. Then he won the Champions League in 2019, and he pushed City all the way in 2019 as well. Then he won it in 2020. Like, people recount the journey. They recount the steps, the nearly moments, the defeat to Real Madrid, but then the year after they did get it over the line, but then they just fell short to Man City, but then they did get it over the line the year after, and it's all kind of part of the story. And when people talk about last season with Liverpool, they don't go, yeah, they won the 2 domestic cups. They go, Liverpool were 2 games away from the quadruple. Like, they are remembered and discussed as a great side for what they almost achieved as well, because there's a recognition for how difficult it is and how good that team was to even get so close to it. So it's one of those where if Arsenal fall away like Man United did under Ollie, you know, they finished second and then nothing, then you're right, no one remembers that Man United team, albeit, you know, it was a bit of a false second in my opinion, but anyway, you get my point. Whereas if Arsenal then win the title next year, 20 years on from the Invincibles, we will look at this season as a really crucial part of that step towards learning how to get over the line and do it.
You look at it when you delve into it, but I mean, let's use Liverpool as an example. Liverpool's Champions League winning year and the Premier League winning year will go down obviously higher than the one last season because they didn't get over the line, but last season they were 2 games away, 2 90-minute matches away from doing a quadruple. But because they didn't get over the line, we as opposition fans will remember the year that they won the league more so than the year they nearly won everything.
Well, 100%, 100%, you're right. But then goes all the way back to the bigger question. Sorry, comment section. We'll go through your comments as well in a second, get all your thoughts. But going back to it then, is it a failure if Arsenal finish second this season? What's your answer to that question? Interesting. I think Arteta agrees with you.
I think that's setting high standards. What you think if we don't get over the line at the end of the season, I'll be happy hearing Arteta say to them, oh, good try, boys. Good try, lads. And you think they're going to be happy as players? They shouldn't be.
No. And I think that is the mentality he's instilling in them. I think for me, though, and you know how pedantic I can be, the word failure
Sounds harsh.
Yeah, it does.
sound harsh.
And maybe that's what they need. Maybe that's what breeds winners. You need that kind of harsher level of standards. You need that harsher kind of feedback. I think the way I'd put it is, it's disappointing from the position we were in, but I still struggle to see a little bit how we'd have failed in something that no one thought we were going to achieve anyway, if that makes sense, just because we overachieved by getting even closer, if that makes sense. Like, I still wrestle with that, like, and there is a little part of me that will be like, oh, I'm gutted, but you know what, great effort, go again. Now, I'm not saying that then it's acceptable to have three years in a row of good try, but for a really young team that's coming a really long way and wasn't expected to be as good as they have been, and I'm not just talking a title race, I'm talking a title race keeping up with the pace that Man City have set for the last 5 years, which is the greatest standard the Premier League's ever seen in terms of points tallies. They have kept up with that. I think just falling short, I can recognise that there are more steps to go, and I'd struggle just to go, oh, season's a failure.
Yeah, because it sounds harsh, but failure and progress can live together.
Okay, fine. Then yeah.
I mean, yes, I'd say not winning the league this season a failure because of what we've done, how we've done it, how much we've come on leaps and bounds, the consistency we've shown, the domination of the majority of games that we've watched over the season. If I look at all of these things, and even the expectation rising throughout the season, because you're right, at the beginning of the season, Champions League football for me was the be all and end all. But what Arteta's done, what the team have done, is raise the bar, raise the standards. So it would be a failure for me, but at the same time, if I take 2 steps back and take a bit of emotion out of it, there's a lot of progress there.
Yeah, of course.
And we just go back to what you said before about this being maybe the season where it all turned around and we become that team again that's challenging at the top of the league, that's challenging and getting far in the Champions League. So I think failure and progress can live as one. As descriptive factors of the season if we don't get over the line.
Let's have a little look at what the comments are saying, then we'll go back into the comments from Arteta as well, and a little something I've just seen pop up on Twitter and we'll discuss as well. Thank you for being so patient, everyone. I know that Turkish and I have been having a good back and forth. It's actually been a long time since we've been on a live show and just hashed out some thoughts about whatever, because on the news front for Arsenal, it's fairly quiet today, but obviously with the press conference and all that, it's kind of, it gets you... He provokes thoughts, doesn't he, Arteta, in the kind of the way he answers things, and especially with where our season is. But he basically says, saying it's not failure is a cop-out, says Goo. Jordan says 90 plus points is a miracle. Dave Jordan says 90 plus points is a miracle, not a failure. We bottled the West Ham game, says Mike. The Gooner says, well said to you, Turkish.
But Dave, like, even that whole miracle thing is like, in 10 years, Dave, come on, because I know you're... I think Dave's an older fan like myself who's seen us win things. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he is young. But do you think in 5 years, if we don't get over the line in this Premier League title race, we're going to look back and someone can describe this season as miraculous?
No, I don't. I agree. I don't think it's a miracle. I think if someone said to me, Arteta's going to take over in December 2019, so give that's half a season. I'll bend my thumb. So that's half a season. Then 2021. Then 21-22, and now we're in 22-23. So in his 3rd full season, and by the end that would have been 3.5 years in the job. If someone said to him back in 2019, that's the season we'll have you competing for the title, I'd have said that sounds about right. So actually, it kind of swings and roundabouts. In another way, really, this is where we should be. But he has gone on record before, Arteta, and said that we're only at something like stage 3 of the process or whatever, that that he sees it as 5 stages and we're still...
But he's also said yes when he was asked about whether he expected to be where he is now.
That is true. Yeah. That is true. 100% spot on there. Turkish says Guillermo. Already setting up coping mechanisms. Come on, man. It would be a complete failure, says Familia Rivera. Wicked says disappointing, yes. Failure, not even close. CB says it would be a failure by definition, but we've been in the gutter for so long, I don't know how I'd feel. I think
again, it comes back, sorry to cut you, but it comes back down to that word. People don't like the word.
Because
why would you be... Okay, if I ask, why are you disappointed?
Yeah, because
we failed to win the league.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's true.
But people just don't... Failure. No, you can't say that.
Yeah, it's true.
Take the emotion out of the words.
Yeah.
What Arsenal have done this season, in my opinion, we deserve to get over the line.
Yeah, I agree.
So we would have failed and we would be feeling disappointed because we would have failed in that metric or that achievement.
God damn it, said, oh my God, you were first the whole damn season with an 8-point lead. How is that not bottling? I mean, sure. I mean, only that's not true. We didn't have an 8-point lead the whole season. If that were the case, sure. We had it once. We once had an 8-point lead for like one weekend.
Yeah.
Let it out, James. What you think? Says Paul Phoenix. I think I have. Dave Jordan says, not a failure when you've got to play a quarter of the season with holdings. That's harsh. James, the size that almost won will be forgotten. Just look at Spurs, Champions League challenging side. But that Tottenham team won nothing and yet is still referenced sometimes as a good team, not as a great team. And I'm not saying well done to them or whatever. I'm just saying that I think it's a bit too much of a blanket statement to say the teams that nearly did it, no one remembers them. Yeah. It really depends on what they go on to do. Seasons, I don't think your feeling about a season isn't just resigned to that one. How many times we reference
as a fan of the club? Yes, as a fan of an opposition club, if I'm looking at that Tottenham Champions League one, they failed.
Yeah, no, of course.
You get what I mean?
No, yeah.
Whereas to a Tottenham fan, they're probably looking at that one as the one where, Levy, you should have built on this, and what's happened since, and that was a great team, and all of these things. But opposition fans don't give a shit about the little bits and bobs.
But okay, I was about to say, imagine Tottenham had won it. No, don't. That's a horrible thought. But had they, they'll be talking about the years before where Poch built all that, and then it kind of culminated in this. So it's what I'm saying is,
yeah, I get you.
If Arsenal do go and achieve great things next year, let's say we win the league, let's say the year after we win the Champions League, let's say we win some domestic silver along the way, I really think this year, even if we finish second, will be talked about. Even a bit last year when no one thought we challenged for top 4, and actually the team started showing consistency, and it was the youngest team in the league, and they just narrowly missed out. Kind of all of this will be talked about as part of the journey.
It will be. Like I said, if we finish second this year and then go and win the Premier League next year, then there'll be a lot of revisionism going on about this season from opposition fans, because this would have been the starting block for great things to come.
Yeah.
Regardless of getting over the line or not. But we can't predict the future.
No.
And opposition fans don't give a shit about what happens in the future, because we live in the here and now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if we don't get over the line, that's going to be the general consensus.
There's a super chat from Prayesh says, why does Turkish not wear any Arsenal merch? Well, can't you see? London is red. Hoodie.
Yeah.
There you go.
AFTV merch is not Arsenal, but yeah, we moved. Shop.aftv.co.uk.
Link in the description.
To be honest, I stopped buying merch because I stopped wanting to, you know already, I stopped wanting to fund what I believed was strictly a business for the ownership, being Stan Kroenke, Josh Kroenke, and so on. Obviously, we're seeing things unfold that I'm not changing my perspective on them, because they've got a lot of work to do for me to ever even get into thinking about changing my perspective on them. But, Arsenal are doing great. Arsenal have a lot of players that I like, a lot of players that there's a connection with. The club in general seem to be running in the right way finally. So, me not buying merch was just not to fund them during a time where it felt like that's all they cared about.
Yeah.
Now there's more to it, and you'll see me in merch soon enough. I mean, I love the black kit this season. I love a few of the tracksuits that have been going around. I used to wear a lot of merch. I mean, especially tracks. I'm a tracksuit guy. I like being comfortable, and Arsenal do produce a lot of good tracksuits. So soon come, I'll be back in Arsenal merch. But
you've just sparked a question in my mind I wanted to ask you, and I was doing the rounds on Twitter. If you were offered a transfer window, and it's a bloody good transfer window, but hear it out, a transfer window where Arsenal in the summer only signed Caicedo and Rice and no one else, would you take it?
Would I take it?
Like happily, not just, I could stomach that. Like, would you be happy with that?
No.
Really?
Because then we might still have Holding come in again next season, or we might still have Eddie Nketiah come in again next season. These are players I think we need to improve on.
Dave Jordan agrees with you, said no.
So as much as Caicedo and Rice, I want both. I'll take both. More work has to be done than just them, because a season is long. We're back in Champions League. There's more room for injuries and fitness concerns with that. I don't want to be left in the same predicament that we've been left in seasons gone past, and this season as well, where the backup doesn't fill us with as much confidence as the starting player.
I would do it. Do you know why? I'd be happy with that? Because I think they're both unbelievable players.
And I think they'd improve the side for sure.
Oh, and I think, imagine you don't have to play Partey every week and he's alternating with Caicedo, and imagine Rice can also be a backup 6, but maybe as the understudy to Xhaka, and maybe can offer. I didn't think Xhaka had this much to offer in the final third, and can Arteta unlock something in Rice in that sense? I wonder about as well. And then I'll kind of go one further. We talk about depth for holding, but okay, could Rice play centre back? He's been a centre back. He came through as a centre back. He's 6'2" or whatever. He's got a really good pass on him. We know his defensive numbers are superb. Imagine him kind of deep playmaking out the back, especially when Arsenal are playing and they've got teams congested. Okay, White or Tomiyasu or Saliba, like we are in this situation now, can't play in that centre back position. But that's fine, because he's still got Partey, he's still got Xhaka, he's still got Caicedo in midfield, he's still got Smith Rowe, he's still got Odegaard, he's still got Patino to come back. But then it's Rice that slots in a centre back. I think they cover actually quite a lot of positions.
Arteta's done a few things over the years that I've questioned at the beginning, but have been won round pretty soon after. So I'm in a place now where whatever Arteta wants to do, I'm with it.
Yeah.
And if that's an idea he has and he thinks it's one that can work, cool, I'm with him on it. I'm with him in the process now.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, I look at this summer and I say we need 2 midfielders. That would be Caicedo, Rice profiles. But we also need another striker, in my opinion, and we also need another centre back that can do a job if Saliba's not there.
Yeah, we do.
So that's the 4 areas I'd be looking at to improve. Obviously, if he sees a player in your eyes like a Rice that can cover 2 of those positions, then cool, Arteta, you've done more than enough to be trusted with it. So cool, but just don't let that decision come back to bite us, because so many seasons over the years, whether we finish 8th, whether we finish 2nd, whether we finished in the top 4 or out of the top 4, there's been moments in the season where a lot of Arsenal fans have kind of predicted not buying in that area will cost us down the line.
Yeah.
This season, a lot of people predicted maybe without Jesus, having Eddie as the backup would cost us. It didn't, then it did, but Trossard was already in by that time that, in my opinion, it did, and he could come in and freshen things up a bit. But defensively, behind Saliba, is probably another one where I would have said maybe we need some reassurances there.
Yeah.
Partey would have been another one, but then Jorginho comes in January.
Yeah, I hear it. I just think as well, it's so funny. If we'd had this exact live show a year ago and I started giving you internal solutions to these problems, I know exactly what you'd have done. You'd be like, oh, don't. I'm done. I'm done with these people. I'm done with it. Because there were so many players that we thought, how many chances?
Yeah.
But now we're left with a squad where even the players on the outside that haven't really done what we'd hope they'd do this season, I think we genuinely have hope that they can step up into that role, because we've seen White become a right back we didn't expect. We've seen Xhaka become a box-to-box midfielder we didn't expect. So list me the positions you said that you felt we needed depth in again.
2 midfield, 8 and 6.
8 and 6.
Striker.
Cool.
Right centre back.
Right. So if I told you Raul Walters might be the solution for 1, Balogun might be the solution for 1, Patino might be the solution for 1, and then we need a 6. I can't even pretend we don't. But what I'm saying is that doesn't sound, or okay, no,
it doesn't sound as depressing as back in the day when we were thinking Akpom is going to come in and be the next.
Akpom is smashing it.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
He's absolutely smashing.
Sorry to just pick him up, but over the years there's been players in the youth team that we've all kind of thrown our eggs into that basket, but nothing
we've been
ever
kind of
materializes.
forcing it.
We're in a better position now because we've got first teamers that have come from the youth academy and have worked there. We're not just youth academy. Martinelli comes in, young player, hits the ground running, and now look at him. So in that sense, yes. But if I'm looking at where Arsenal are now, which is a very young team, first or second youngest in the league, going into Champions League for the first time in what would be 6 years. Yeah, 6 years.
You excited for that, by the way?
Of course I'm excited. I never thought I'd be excited just to be back in Champions League, because just making Champions League used to jar me towards the end of making it, because it was top four's a trophy and all of this nonsense. I feel like with Champions League football, with where we are being a young side already, I think we need experience, and I think we need ready-made quality experience that can slot in not just Premier League but in the Champions League too. So as much as Patino, Balogun, Walters, nice names coming up the youth system and players that I want to see flourish at Arsenal, I also think in order for them to flourish and relieve some pressure off not just those names but Saka's and Martinelli's and the young players we already have, bring in a few players that have been there, done that, and still have a lot to give.
I just think it wouldn't surprise me if Walters, Smith Rowe, Fabio Vieira, Balogun, Reece Nelson, new contract, maybe keeps his fitness. It wouldn't surprise me if they're playing big parts next season, not in a negative way, not in a Arsenal neglected those positions way, in a they actually have genuinely earned them and are playing really well and have that space in the squad. Like, that wouldn't surprise me, which is why if you offer me Rice and Caicedo, I think both of them are potential world-class number sixes and just central midfielders in general that I'd say bring them in, because Jorginho, El Neni, Partey, Xhaka, all around 30 plus. I think it's time.
So a name came up in the chat, De Jong. Listen, that's someone that has not necessarily been there, done that, but he's been playing at a level above Declan Rice for years. He was available last summer for a price that I think can easily be attainable by
52,
Arsenal.
55.
So, that's also the profile I'm looking at. There's players out there that have been playing Champions League football, that are assets to the club they're at, but they might be seeking pastures new.
I said we were going to react to Arteta's press conference, and we've reacted to about 2 quotes, so thank you for joining us for all this. But look, we touched on the Saliba stuff, we've touched on Zinchenko. There was another quote, let me just go find it.
Right wing as well. Sorry, when you mentioned Nelson, that's another area I think we need to address.
I think so too.
If Nelson gets a new contract, then I'd expect to see him a lot more than I have done this season. But if he doesn't, then I'd expect to see a player coming in. We was linked very strongly to Rafinha last summer. Edu pretty much came out and confirmed that he inquired at the very least, but was shut down pretty quickly in terms of the players' dreams of playing for Barcelona. So it's an area that I think the club are already keeping an eye on, and it's an area when you look at the games that Saka's played, not just this season but over the last 3 years, I think we need someone that can rotate, and we can be confident when seeing Saka on the bench that the player coming in is going to do a job.
I agree. On whether Gabriel Jesus is ready to play 90 minutes, he said, we'll see. We've been really careful. There have been some issues within that period that he was doing the final stage of the rehab, and we have to be really attentive. We have the players that can change the game, that are fully fit, that deserve to play as well, and we have to be mindful of that. Is he basically confirming that those substitutions were fitness-led?
It sounds like it.
Yeah, I think so too. And in that case, I kind of therefore take back all my criticism about him taking him off. Like, if it really is something that's driven by his fitness and their need to be careful with him, then that's fine. This is interesting. On Thierry Henry's comments that we're too emotional, Arteta said, I don't know, it's just an opinion. What I will say is I listened to Thierry Henry's comments, and I thought Thierry Henry spoke really kind of brilliantly about the title race, and about, he said, like, emotion might carry you through a knockout game or in a cup final or a few rounds of a cup, but in a league it's all about composure and calmness and all that. And I actually don't think West Ham was a display of emotion from Arsenal or over emotion, but I think Thierry Henry's comments are spot on about what this team are like generally. I think the reason Anfield became such a mess is because we're quite an emotional team that just kind of did everything to try and get us over the line, and in that way it worked. Kind of, it was throw your bodies on the line, get over for one game, and even then we didn't win, we just got a point. But there are other games where I do definitely think that we still kind of look quite a young team, and I know Henry in the past has been a little critical of what's been happening at Arsenal, but this season he's always spoken really well about what the team are doing. And I think his comments were perfectly fair.
Yeah, and I was trying to find it now, but I know a current Arsenal player, was it Jesus, said something similar in terms of, was it Jesus? I forgot what player it was. I wish I had the quote ready. But he pretty much said something that I didn't agree with, but he's one of the players. So I'm like, if that's what you feel, then you know better than I do. But was it emotions getting in the way, or... You know what, I don't have the quote here, so I can't really go into it. But yeah, in terms of what Henry said, Henry's been there and done that. Henry knows what it takes. And he's right. Even when you look at the face of it, you know, cup competitions, you can get by with emotions and you know, this is a big one, this is the second leg, this is the first, and so on. With a season, you've got to kind of be calm with it all. There's still games to play, even though as you draw to the end of the season, emotions play a bigger part because there's less games on the horizon. So there's more invested into the 90 minutes coming up next week. Like that Manchester City game, for example, we've got to play with a bit of emotion, in my opinion. We've got to play with a bit of emotion, a bit of fight, a bit of heart, a bit of, you know, fire, desire, passion, and all of that. That's all emotions too. You just can't go overboard with emotions. You have to have the plan, the system in place, and you know, emotionally get through it.
I think Arsenal need to. It's, you know what we said on Forever Arsenal about the players losing composure when like an error's made. Like, I think that's what I mean when I'm talking about the emotion of the team. That like we get flustered very easily. I think we very easily kind of, I don't know, just lose our composure because the really particular thing that we built in place, you know, that involves playing out the back and blah, 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 it's gone slightly wrong, and then it's, you know, everything kind of feels like it falls apart sometimes. But, you know, I think that, like the West Ham game, we were so comfortable, and then Partey makes a mistake, and I feel like Gabriel going down in that situation, by the way, I still don't think it's a penalty, so maybe I shouldn't even be criticising Gabriel, but I think the way he kind of lunged to the floor was a bit of an emotional reaction, sort of a
shit. We've lost it. It's in the box.
Oh my god, Partey's lost it. I wasn't expecting that. Now it's coming to the box. Let me just throw my body at it and hope something happens. And it's like, I don't know. I think just a. But then Gabriel, I think, has been the picture of composure for most of this season, actually. Up until from when he signed the contract, I think mid-October, and there was a bit of criticism before that. After that, I think he's been kind of flawless. So I think just as a team, we're a young team, and they're learning a lot. And
they've shown enough so far. I mean, there's been 30 games played this season. We've been top for the majority. There's been bumps along the way, whether it's a loss at Old Trafford, whether it's a Jesus injury, whether it's City beating us at the Emirates and going above us on goal difference. How we reacted, Dave mentions even Fulham, Villa, Leicester in terms of how we react to conceding a goal. We've already shown that emotionally we can handle ourselves mentally and you know, get by.
Yeah, that's true.
This is new now.
Dave's right. We have been very praising of how the team have responded to that is true. You know, maybe, I don't know, maybe we're just in the heat of the moment, kind of seeing some more recent results and kind of throwing things out that maybe we were saying a year ago that maybe aren't as true this year. It's very difficult, and the games come so thick and fast, and there's such high stakes that the reality is there's kind of very, very little to be critical about when it comes to this Arsenal team.
Listen, you know, even if we don't get over the line, there's nothing to be critical about, in my opinion. Disappointed, frustrated, angry. Is it failure? Yes. But in terms of being critical, no.
Yeah.
Because then that's when you start looking into the positives and you know, how far we've come and hoping that this is the catalyst for a new era for Arsenal, challenging at the top and being one of the, you know, most worried about sides in the league and so on.
Pryor says, Arsenal brought in Sol Campbell in training to teach the squad how to win the league. This young team needs some counselling. Well, I mean, I saw a picture of him at London Colney. I don't know whether he put a tracksuit on or was coaching the team, but you know, maybe just some wise words from someone who's been there and done it, and a legend, and you know, a former Premier League winner, you know, scoring a Champions League final. Maybe that just kind of is just always a nice, I don't know.
I think it will help.
Yeah, I think if I were
something to test out.
If I were a player going to London Colney every day, same environment, training all the time, I think to have a Campbell, a Thierry Henry, a Cesc Fabregas, or maybe Fabregas doesn't quite make the same, but you get my point. We know he's visited. Yeah, players visiting and going, this is how we got it over the line. I don't know. I think that would help. I think that would definitely do.
I think so. I think it's a good thing to bring in, if I'm honest. Good time of the season. I've got a few super chats from earlier.
You go from
and these are from earlier as well. Ohan says, in order to be the team, we need to beat the team, Man City. The Man City game will test our title aspirations. Stay strong, Gunners. Arsenal all the way says being in the Europa would have helped us so much. Ted says rival fan here. This season is only a failure for Arsenal if they don't push on next season and build on the positives of this one.
That's kind of what I was trying to say earlier.
Which is 100% right. I agree. And he said it's not bottling though, and he wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Miles has a couple here. You done the Arsenal merch one from Prayash. Yeah, Miles says, of course it's failure. If not now, when? I don't necessarily agree with that, because I've been guilty of that in the past. Last year when we missed out on top 4, I said it's going to be even harder this year, and look where we are. I think when you look at Liverpool 2018-19, they finished 1 point off Manchester City in the league. That year they won the Champions League.
Yeah.
So a lot of people could have said, if not now, when? And then they went and won it the next season. So Miles, I've been guilty of that in the past. It does feel like that, and I know why you're saying it. But it doesn't ring true, and there's examples in recent history to prove otherwise. But he goes on to say, I agree with Turkish. I think the drop in quality in other areas is greater than the midfield. I wouldn't be happy with just Rice and Caicedo.
Fair enough.
And that's all the super chats I believe I have here.
We're going to round off this show now in a sec. But a tweet from Mason Mount an hour ago. I know he's a Chelsea player, and ultimately kind of why would we be interested? But I think it is worth reading out. He tweeted an hour ago saying, over the years, I thoroughly enjoyed connecting with you all on Twitter. Sadly, the platform is changing, so I've decided to delete my account. You can still connect with me on my other social media platforms here. Take care, Mason. Now, look, let me just say that everything I'm about to say is pure speculation. But do you think he's referring to how Twitter can be sometimes in terms of the toxicity of it? Or do you think he's... Because we know that it's going through some quite literal changes in terms of,
probably
the way it's run and everything. I don't know. Thierry Henry years ago, deleted his Twitter account as a kind of statement about the way it's allowed to operate.
Yeah. I'd probably say that it's similar to the reasons Mason Mount is saying he's going to delete his. A lot of people I don't like Twitter.
No, I know you don't.
A lot of people I speak to don't like it. A lot of people need it and use it for their ventures or their businesses. But in general, the app it's very toxic.
Incredible.
There's no guidelines. There's no rules. It's just a free for all. And in reality, it doesn't give me what I'd like or want from social media, hence why I've got one, but I spend very little time on it. So I'd assume Mount is probably leaning more towards the former reason than the changes that have happened, under new ownership and buying blue ticks and all of this stuff.
Sure.
It must come from a place of toxicity and a free-for-all platform that there is no repercussions for saying anything.
Yeah, and I think we're going to get players doing more and more of this actually, if there aren't kind of more barriers to entry for people who just want to sit and troll. I haven't given this too much thought, but is there a way in which you have to submit some form of ID or something to ensure that everything that you say with your profile is accountable to someone? At the moment, it just feels, you got to do an email address, but anyone could just make an email address or whatever. I wonder. So anyway, all right, everyone.
One last super chat has come in
before
you wrap it up. Lee says, blessings and guidance. Just wanted to ask a question slightly off topic. Up against City for the title, are we the underdog? Looking where we are with no FFP infractions, we are doing well. Simple answer, we are the underdog.
Of course we're the underdog, The only thing that made us not the underdog was that we were ahead of Man City for a lot of the season because they dropped points that you wouldn't have expected them to. But
we never got to a differential that made me feel like we are the favourites. That's the thing.
I think when we got to 8 points clear, I did start to think, even though we hadn't hit the halfway stage, I did think, wow. Because Man City looked so far off it. It's not that if Man City had been brilliant but we'd been perfect, literally won every single game.
Didn't they have a game in hand when we was 8 points clear?
No, when we beat Tottenham, went 8 clear. We were 8 outright clear, which was kind of mad.
8 outright clear, but then we went and beat United, stayed 8 outright clear. That's when we lost to the City in the FA Cup. We lost to Everton, so 3 points. We drew to Brentford, so 5 points. Okay, so yeah, you're right. We was 8 points clear.
Oh God!
And they made up those 8 points in 3 games. That's how quickly it turned around. So I've never looked and said we are favourites for it. And there has been points where I said we should win it, but it didn't necessarily mean I think we're favourites for it. I think pretty much, 90%, 95% of the season so far, City have remained favourites in my opinion.
Fair enough. Name says James, no, it was 5 with a game in hand to us. I don't think so.
No, I think because we've just done the maths now, it was 8. We lost to Everton, they caught up 3 points. We drew to Brentford, so they caught up another 2 points. That's 5 points. Then they beat us at the Emirates, and that's the 8 point difference gone, and they went above us on goal difference. So it must have been 8 points.
I'm looking for a match report, because in match reports they always say the Gunners went blah blah clear. I'm very
No, you're right. Because that was back to back. No, we played Everton, Brentford, and City back to back. Everton lost, Brentford draw, Man City lost. Yeah, so that's 8 point difference there, and then that's when they went ahead of us on goal difference. So that would have been the 8 point difference closed.
Well, there you go. Fair enough. I'd still love to see. Anyway, because now they've put the doubt in my mind. Anyway, all right, we're gonna leave it there. Yeah, we've had a good discussion. It looks like William Saliba's season is not looking positive. It looks like Zinchenko isn't going to be risked for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And actually, Arteta, we didn't touch it, but Arteta did praise Holding and Tierney. It looks like second place is a failure, but you can take the positives out of that as well. Yeah, fair enough. All right, everyone, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you're not watching this live, of course, for everyone who did, thank you for sending your comments in the show and your super chats and all that. Lots of content still coming out ahead of the Southampton game. The preview's out. There's a video on that Rob Holding debate and what everyone's putting forward in terms of solutions. I debate it with Robbie. Look out for that as well. And of course, from tomorrow evening, we will be live reacting to the starting 11 as it comes out. Will Jesus, keep his place? Will it be Trossard coming in for Jesus, who maybe needs a little bit of a rest? Maybe that's something Arteta hinted at there when they talk about managing him and being careful. Will there be a solution to the Rob Holding problem? Apparently, I don't know. We will see. I also imagine he'll go for a similar thing. And if you like what we're wearing, London is red hoodie and a Jorginho, the man who saved us 3 points at Villa. I'm gonna just.
Of course, the Italian's gonna be wearing that.
I even went for sort of a white Italian colour with. Although there's another that's green, and that's like proper Italian colours. Anyway, link is in the description below, so go check all that out. Okay, we're back tomorrow. Many thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.
Love.
Oh God, McLaren!
He's gone.
He's been in the pit 40 seconds!
Whoa.
Front wing! Careful with the front wing! God! Matisse, it's happening, mate. I'm putting on my lucky new Ferrari hat. Oh no!
Oh, science!
Leclerc.
It's Leclerc! Drama! Take that out.
Introducing FANZONE. My friend Elliot from Canada.
We are still
Say we
top of the league. Say we are top of the league. We are top of the league. Say we are top of the league.
Allows any fan, anywhere you are on the planet, to broadcast live into our shows at the push of a button via our website or app.
I'm tired of hearing about the Europa League like it's silverware. So is the League Cup. So is the Dubai Cup. So is the Community Shield.
Michael, come on, they're not the same level.
No, I mean it!
Cecile. My guy.
FANZONE on AFTV Plus. You can download it on iOS or the Play Store and have your say.